Story 1. Taking for granted that my husband would be alive forever and that we would grow old together, I deeply regret the concerns I had in the past. They took time away from just loving him and enjoying his company. I regret so much. Story 2. Putting my problems aside and focusing on others instead. Now I have no choice but to face my problems, and it feels overwhelming. Story 3. Letting low self-esteem rule my life has wasted 15 years and counting, battling with my own self. Story 4. Not knowing my self-worth a long time ago could have saved me a lot of time and mistakes along the way. Story 5. Going to college straight after high school and staying at home was the biggest mistake of my life. It ruined my mental, emotional, physical, and financial health. Story 6. I struggled with self-hatred while growing up until I was 27 when I finally accepted that I am gay. I wasted my youth trying to be straight, even though I could never change who I truly am. Story 7. Listening to my parents too much can be overwhelming. It's important to have your own life and not worry about what they want for you or what they think is best for you. Story 8. I am not breaking up with my partner after he cheated, but I am trying to make it work instead. It took me nearly another 4 years to leave that relationship. It was dreadful. Story 9. Not paying proper attention to my cat as she neared death was difficult for me. I was very ill as a child and missed out on many social activities, which meant I had no friends. All I had was my cat. In my mid-teens, my health improved, and I went out frequently to catch up on everything I had missed. During that time, my cat was getting old and became ill. She could not control her bladder, so she had to stay in the kitchen, which had a tiled floor for easy cleaning, and she lost a lot of weight. The few times I visited her, she ran up to me like an excited puppy for cuddles and didn't want me to leave. She was there for me when I needed her, but I wasn't there for her. Story 10. Getting a Master of Business Administration degree can be a waste of time, money, and energy. Additionally, consider the opportunity cost of foregone earnings. A Master of Business Administration may only make sense if you attend a top 10 school and have it funded by someone else. The higher the tier, the better the networking opportunities. If you are not pursuing a career in consulting or investment banking, it may be best to avoid a Master of Business Administration degree. Story 11. Not texting my uncle back last week because I was too busy to say, "Thanks, love you too. He died 2 days ago." You are never too busy to tell your loved ones you love them. You never know when someone will be gone. Story 12. I am only 19, but I regret being so quiet and caring so much about what others think. I let it consume me, and I missed some opportunities. Story 13. I often feel like I overwhelm those around me, even those who care for me. I struggle with my own issues and believe I might be someone people should avoid. Story 14. Loving him and giving myself to him completely, only to be accused of being unfaithful when he was, in fact, the unfaithful one. Projection is real. I will never trust another man as long as I live. Story 15. I invested $1,000 in a cryptocurrency, which increased to $10,000. I continued to hold because everyone said it would rise even more. Ultimately, I withdrew less than my initial investment. Story 16. Mine is really shallow. I wish I had more relationships and experiences. I had a steady girlfriend from age 17 to 21. Then I was single for about 6 months before meeting and marrying my wife. Now in my mid-40s, I have been very happy, but I feel an itch that I never scratched. Story 17. Resenting my parents for a significant part of my childhood. I realize now that it was completely unjustified. They were just doing what was right for me, and I love them so much. Story 18. I did not spend enough time getting to know myself in my younger years. Questions like, what do I genuinely enjoy? And what brings me joy? Were overlooked because I, for one reason or another, was pushed into things I felt I needed or should do. Story 19. Not immediately moving to a more modern city, where there are much better opportunities for my career, dating, and general suitability, has been challenging. It's difficult to feel stuck in both dating and my career for all these years. If only I had moved from New Zealand to Australia sooner. I finally relocated 6 months ago, and I am reminded of my regret every day. At least it is over. Story 20. There are a few things to consider: trusting before truly getting to know someone, trusting after being let down, being overly nice, not being more outspoken, and allowing someone to break your heart only for them to say you meant nothing to them. That really hurts. Story 21. Not loving myself more has affected my life significantly. My whole life would have been different if I had loved and believed in myself. Story 22. In Ireland, students choose what subjects to study twice during the equivalent of high school. I received an A in music in the junior certificate. I dropped the subject for the leaving certificate because it required a practical performance, and I was too nervous to sing in public. Now, I'm involved in high-profile music gigs, and I constantly struggle due to my limited knowledge of musical theory. Story 23. I regret not spending enough time with my grandfather when I was younger. Now he has lung cancer and I live in another country, so I cannot see him often. This is the biggest regret of my life, and I will probably never overcome it. Story 24. When I had the chance to tell my father that he needed to leave my life, I didn't do it. He is still alive. He just left my mother, who is in a wheelchair after 40 years. Story 25. I didn't go out much in college. I was an introvert, so I spent a lot of weekends going home to see my family. Now I wish I had experienced college more and had more fun. I wanted to step out of my shell. Story 26. Nothing, because everything is a learning curve and my previous choices have led me to where I am now and were the best choices at that time. Don't dwell on the what-ifs. Focus on what you have become and change whatever you don't feel good about. Story 27. Sticking to echo chambers of misery and self-loathing. As long as others feel unhappy, why shouldn't I be allowed to feel the same? I would have picked myself up by my bootstraps much sooner. Story 28. I didn't consider pursuing what I truly desired. I didn't even make an effort. I simply went along with the flow for a career path defined by society. Story 29. Not telling my high school crush that I liked him and never having the chance to date him still haunts me. I often dream about him, and for a long time, I wished I could go back to those memories of seeing him walking at school. Story 30. When my brother and I were younger, we hated each other. We really did. After about 10 years, we finally got along and became an amazing team in games. I guess my regret is not getting along with him sooner. We could have played with Hot Wheels or action figures or something cool. Story 31. Not trying harder at school. Not trying harder at art college. Not standing up for myself against bullies. Not standing up for myself against toxic friends. Not standing up for myself against a controlling and later abusive partner. Not learning to drive. Not seeking therapy sooner. Not working harder to keep a decent job. Not working harder to keep a good job that would have supported me through to retirement. Not taking several excellent opportunities when they presented themselves. Story 32. I do not care enough about my future. I am a foreman for a construction company, and I do okay, but I can honestly look at myself and know I could be doing much better if I tried to care more. Story 33. I regret not spending more time with my mom, especially not helping out more around the house during my teenage years. Looking back, I can see that she was overwhelmed working full-time and managing a 5-person household. It wouldn't have been too much for me to do a couple of loads of laundry or prepare dinner so she could relax more. Story 34. Not putting myself out there more as a kid. I feel like a blank slate at 22 going on 23. I have very few interesting stories, not many skills, and no real-life friends or even close online friends. I am working on improving myself, but I really regret not doing anything with my life until now. I feel there has been a lot of wasted time. Story 35. Not investing in Apple in the 1990s. Other than that, I wish I had met my wife sooner. We met when we were 28. Story 36. Leaving a job I liked for one that paid more. I came back to the first job a year later, but I lost out on getting 2 extra weeks of vacation, and now I earn more than at the other job. Story 37. Not asking my high school crush out was a missed opportunity. To any students currently in high school, if you are considering asking someone out, just go for it. The worst outcome is that they say no, but at least you will know where you stand. I also regret not paying attention in school and not thinking about my future. I deeply regret getting into debt. It is holding me back significantly right now. We need a third bedroom, but we cannot move to a bigger house due to my past debt. While I have now paid it off, it has left me unable to secure a mortgage. Story 38. I spent too much of my teens, 20s, and early 30s worrying about what others thought of me and focusing on things I had little to no control over. If I had channeled that energy into something productive instead of substance abuse, I would probably be better off today. I am doing fine now, but I regret that I could have reached this point sooner. Story 39. My girlfriend at the time bought me very important person tickets to see Iggy Pop at a small, intimate show. We broke up before the show, and she sold the tickets. It remains my biggest regret. Story 40. I wish I had advocated for myself more and learned how to do so sooner. I wasn't a people pleaser. Instead, I allowed those around me to convince me of my feelings, thoughts, wants, and needs based on their own beliefs rather than listening to myself. I believe my life could have aligned more closely with what I envisioned and wanted for myself. But who knows? Story 41. I never tried to appreciate the beauty of the things around me when I could see. I should have been more observant, met more people, and enjoyed the beauty of the places I visited. I only realized this when I could no longer do any of that. I never thought I would lose my vision. If I had known, I would have valued it more when I had it. Story 42. Not finishing college and pursuing the career as a pilot that I wanted has affected my life. I ended up working for the federal government, but that has not worked out. I am considering going back to piloting, but at 37, my prospects are limited due to the seniority-based progression and the mandatory retirement age. Story 43. Taking high school for granted. Every single day was better than the previous one. My whole class felt like a big family. There wasn't a day that went by without us laughing together. Story 44. So far, I haven't been as kind or as good a friend or family member to some people as I could have been. I know better now, but that is hindsight. Story 45. This is a super interesting question. I would say I should have broken up with my ex sooner or never dated him. However, we moved to a low-cost area to buy an affordable house. By the time I broke up with him 4 years later and he had to buy me out, the increase in house value allowed me to buy my own apartment in a town near where I grew up. For all his faults and how horrible he was to me, he taught me a lot about property ownership and do-it-yourself projects. My life would be very different if we hadn't met, and I really like my life right now. I wish I had done more adventurous activities as a teen and not gotten so into partying and smoking. However, to have done that, I would have needed to be a different person with different priorities, and I like who I am. I regret all the times I doubted my own self-worth and let my fears of not living up to my own expectations stop me from attempting things at all. I regret all the times I forgot that I am a creature made of old stars walking on an improbable planet in a vast cosmos, and that wonder and delight are my birthright. No one alive can take that away from me. Story 46. Staying in unhappy relationships longer than I should have, or not changing jobs sooner, has been a challenge for me. I tend to be overly optimistic and stick it out too long in both relationships and jobs. However, if making different choices would significantly alter my current situation with my wife and my job, I would choose to go through the same experiences again, as they have ultimately been worth it. Story 47. It sounds silly, and I am unsure if it is valid among many of these thoughts, and it might not even be my biggest concern. Even though I love my job, I dislike being a teacher in this political climate. I want to be an activist, protest, and fight against the current presidential administration, but I feel unable to do so without fear of losing my job, especially since I live in a state that does not allow actual teachers' unions. I feel like a failure because I cannot be politically active in my role without facing severe repercussions. Story 48. I try to live without regrets. Everything that happens in life teaches us something and shapes who we are today. I am happy with myself. Story 49. Sending a request to someone with whom you have no connection, sending messages continuously for 2 weeks, and then expecting her to understand that you love her is not reasonable. Story 50. Not leaving my ex when I first started to fall out of love and not building my credit and savings sooner in life. Story 51. Spending 28 years in a losing battle with a covert narcissist who depended on my financial support the entire time. My late husband died during the pandemic. The individual who excelled academically was accepted to the only law school where he applied, and then dropped out, who daily lamented about dying homeless and alone, lived a comfortable middle-class life on my paycheck while refusing to work. He died in one of the best hospitals in the nation with friends, family, and a team of exceptional medical professionals by his side. You cannot win a battle like that. I am so glad it is over. Story 52. Being the therapist friend. Now all of my friends, more like patients, are gone, leading their happier lives while I am stuck not knowing how to help myself and feeling like I cannot get help. This is definitely affecting me. I'm not saying not to be there for your friends, but if all your friends only come to you when they are feeling down, maybe it is best to cut things off. Story 53. Good question. I should have gone to therapy a lot sooner and maintained friendships with certain people. Story 54. Letting my childhood trauma and shame control my youth. I will never get that time of my life back. And knowing how much I missed because I was too afraid to face my trauma fills me with such hurt and regret. Story 55. Rejecting many of my mother's phone calls was an attempt to protect myself and my mental health, but I still cannot forgive myself. Story 56. I did not push hard enough when it came to doctors not listening to me. They dismissed me for years with just dramatic teenage girl syndrome. Long story short, I have irreparable organ damage and a future full of surgeries because of it. Fortunately, I have a serious backbone now. Story 57. I texted one of the most important people to me something hurtful at a time when they were in pain. Their behavior was terrible, but I should have offered kindness instead of adding more pain. They took their own life that night. Story 58. I was not able to hug my father one last time before he passed away. He was already severely ill at that time, but I had to leave for a job. He was unconscious when I returned to the hospital. Story 59. Almost losing myself and my husband to 8 years of mutual alcohol abuse. We are neurodivergent and came from abusive families. Life challenged us for a while. We are lucky that we survived, are not in jail, have good jobs, and still feel intense love and attraction for each other. People would break up and start over for less than we went through, and I wouldn't fault them. But we recommitted. We are both in therapy and couples therapy and are sober. We are renewing our vows and taking new photos on our next anniversary. 14 years. Story 60. I think my biggest regret in life is worrying about others more than myself. Self-care is essential, and I often forget that while growing up. I am 27 years old and just now realizing this. Story 61. The experience that ultimately led me to create the subreddit Regret joining years later. I have other regrets, but nothing else prompted me to create a subreddit afterward. Story 62. I invested too much of my mind, body, and soul into terrible relationships with toxic people. I was bullied frequently and didn't have friends while growing up. My dad left when I was 3, which led me to constantly seek approval and validation from men. This journey took me to some very dark places, but I am finally starting to heal. Story 63. My dad and I always wanted to hike the Camino de Santiago. I delayed it for a while because I was dealing with my mental health. I told my dad we could do it after I finished my master's degree. By the time I graduated, my dad had amyotrophic lateral sclerosis and wasn't able to hike anymore. Story 64. I regret not asking my friend to massage his feet after he had a tough day. Hear me out. It's not a weird kink. We went to an amusement park in a group and stayed at an Airbnb together. One of my friends asked me to massage his feet. I am really good at it and I enjoy doing it, so it wasn't a crazy request. As my friend had a health issue, he truly had a difficult time that day, but it was very important for us to be there together. After finishing the massage for the other person, I looked at my friend and wanted to ask if he wanted a massage as well to relax. I also thought that he might want one but was hesitant to ask me. However, I didn't say anything because we have a complicated relationship, and at that moment I was overthinking everything. The next day we said goodbye. He lives far away, and now we know he has a terminal illness and doesn't want to see me. So I wish I would have just asked. Story 65. I have struggled with low self-esteem for a long time. However, I can choose to change that and start living better now. Story 66. Not being brave enough to be myself. After 44 years, I'm trying to discover who I am because I buried that part of myself so long ago. Story 67. Not learning music as a child makes it seem like an impossible task as an adult. Too daunting to even start. Story 68. I prioritized my career over my personal life. I have a well-paying job, but I feel lonely and regret not pursuing romantic relationships during my youth. Story 69. There is a serial killer in my city who killed my best friend. I didn't connect all the pieces until it was too late. I fell short. I failed my inner circle. To be fair to myself, I have never investigated a homicide, so I need to give myself some grace. Yet, every day it wears me down. I am sure the perpetrator is long gone, maybe even dead himself. I could never get much support from the homicide division or related services. I tried, but not hard enough. Story 70. I'm a horrible boyfriend. The real reason I broke up with my girlfriend was to be free. That night, I went to the club with an old friend. Afterward, I decided to get on Tinder and other dating apps, and I've been lusting after women since. I hung out with 2 girls, drank with them, made out with one of them, and almost had sex with her. I hung out with another girl later that day, went to the movies with her, and got frozen yogurt. A week later, I invited another girl to my house. She spent the night, and we had sex. I also made plans with another girl. All this happened in less than 2 weeks, and I regret it all now. I know this is all my fault. She doesn't want to get back together, but it's not just because of that. I lied and told her I made it all up, but that was a lie because everything was true. Now, she thinks I only went to the bar with my old friend, but she doesn't know anything else. I love her so much and I want to tell her, but if I do, she'll never talk to me again. I want to cry, but there's no point. I caused all of this to happen because I let social media and people influence my relationship. I regret my actions, and I miss her so much. Now, she's friends with these guys, and I'm pretty sure one of them likes her. She wants to be friends with them because she feels that other women are just fake to her. I can't even be mad at her because, first, I caused all of this, and second, I did much worse. Story 71. I am 17 years old, and my regret in life is that I wasted many opportunities. Growing up, I realized that I could compete with others in school and I could have been a top honor student and even a leader. I could have participated in competitions and activities in clubs, but I wasted all of that because I was shy and lacked self-confidence. I was very unfocused in my academic work, and now I feel regret because I know I was capable. I did not use my skills to benefit me, especially when it comes to college. I was interested in arts, but again, my lack of self-confidence led me to neglect my artwork. Now, it is difficult to compile a portfolio for college applications. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.